Hey everybody, welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sol.
All right, episode 3 of Secret Invasion has aired. Got confirmation early in the episode that we're going Super Skrull with this thing, which we pretty much all called last week. We get a little bit of backstory into how Nick Fury met his Skrull wife. Sol was right; he knew she was a Skrull. But once again, we can barely avoid World War III and Rhodie's a Skrull. Calling all that right now. Good episode. Another really good one. Another great episode of Mendelsohn and Jackson just taking turns chewing all the scenery.
Yep. These two men are such good actors, and it's still funny to see Ben Mendelsohn being a good guy. Mm-hmm. Although he did say a line later in the episode where he calls a rebel like he didn't say rebel scum, but he kind of like almost said rebel scum, and I'm like, there's that Star Wars coming out.
Almost let it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so great getting to see Ben Mendelsohn just kind of have fun and get to kind of just be a person, because usually he's big supervillain CEO, executive, military leader, imperial officer. And in this point, like yeah, he's a shape-changing space alien, but he's just a guy. He's eating an English breakfast at a pub, which is delicious, and you shut your face.
It is so bad.
This
is the biggest argument Mike and I will have. I 100% agree with Nick Fury on the English breakfast. It is so disgusting.
Full English is fantastic.
I had it for the first time ever when I was in London, and it was bar none the worst thing I've ever had in my entire life. And the people around me were, as what we would say in Spanish, comiendo con gana. They had a lot of gusto. It made me think way less of English people. How could you make fried eggs and buttered toast taste like nothing? It was so gross. Maybe I went to a bad spot.
You must have gone to a bad spot.
But the thing is, the people around me were eating it like it was the most delicious thing in the world. And I was eating it like, I don't want to eat this. This is awful. It's so bad.
Anyway.
Let us know down in the comments below how you feel about an English breakfast.
Let's be honest,
and
guys.
How bland and awful it is.
It's the best thing ever. Get out.
Oh, it's so gross. You white man.
No, don't you dare. You know damn well. I am not a no seasoning potato salad white bread motherfucker. You know how I am. I love my food. Look, it's great. It's a very good episode. I still think episode 2 has been my favorite so far, but this one was very close. I love that we renamed the owl Nicholas Fury and put a little eye patch on him.
Yes.
Again, Olivia Colman can do no wrong anytime she's on screen here.
I want more.
I got to be honest. I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on this episode, because so far all 3 episodes have been very straightforward with what they're doing. There weren't a whole lot of big reveals with this episode. We figured the Super Skrull thing was coming.
Yeah. Honestly, and we get it confirmed.
We get it confirmed early in the episode. The most shocking thing about this episode is Gaia getting off right at the end. And we figure she's dead because she reverts back to her Skrull form after she gets shot. So mixed feelings about that, but also, as was established in the first episode, Gravik knows that Talos's weakness is his compassion, his pacifism. If there's one thing to kick his ass into gear a little bit here, it's going to be Gravik killing his daughter.
Yeah. And one thing is, and they could be doing a Hulk running in the trailer for Infinity War. Was it Infinity War? And Infinity War, yeah. So they could be doing that, but in the trailers, there was more scenes with her in it that we have not seen yet. So I don't. Did she go and make herself a Super Skrull in that moment of like snooping around? She got some extremis in her. I don't know. Is she dead? Dead? This is one where like when Maria Hill was killed, I was like, oh, she dead. Dead at the end of the first episode.
Special guest star.
Yeah, there was no doubt in my mind. This one, I was like, oh fuck, she's dead. But then I was like, but the trailers, and I was like,
so here's what I think. I think Gaia is dead, but I think they're going to have another Skrull take that form is what we're probably going to see. I don't think it's going to necessarily be Gaia. I think we're still going to see Amelia Clark, but I don't think it's going to be Gaia anymore because they're trying to fuel fire and create animosity and sow distrust. So what's to stop them from using her as a scapegoat in some way, shape, or form?
And what we're learning with the show, and one thing I love about the show is the show actually has stakes. So we see Maria Hill die in the first episode. We see them blowing up a city square in Moscow and multiple people dying. We're seeing like almost the start of World War III in every episode by either something happening or something almost happening. And so we're seeing really a great spy show with stakes that makes you very much invested, not just like in the characters, but in the storyline as well, which kudos to Marvel.
Absolutely. This has been some of their best storytelling in a while. And just laying the little breadcrumbs, leaving the little trail of seeds for things we know are coming, which kind of takes us into the Rhodie discussion, because in our infiltration of Bob's house, we get the reveal of nobody calls me Nick. Rhodie called Fury Nick in their conversation last episode. Just anyone who knows not to call him Nick, it's Rhodie. Yep. We also know that in their in Nick's in Fury's conversation with I want to call him Nick. I don't want to think of a Skrull. In Fury's conversation with Talos over his delicious English breakfast, Talos says, something about a rogue Skrull infiltrated someone high in the U.S. government.
Yeah,
but Rhodie is walking side by side with the president of the White House.
Yeah.
And also that phone call that Priscilla gets at the end of the episode, I would bet every cent in my bank account that was Rhodie.
That was Don Cheadle. Yes.
It was Don Cheadle. So Rhodie's a Skrull. Yeah. For how long, we don't know.
So I have a few thoughts on that. If Rhodie is a Skrull, it kind of lessens the conversation they had last episode, kind of between two black men. So I'm kind of hoping that if he is a Skrull, it happened after that. But, and yeah, even like I sent you the picture of he tells Talos in like someone high up, and you hear his voice. That is 100% Don Cheadle's voice. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, how long has Rhodie been a Skrull? Please let it be after that conversation, because it lessens it a little bit in my heart. But knowing it was probably beforehand, he was probably a Skrull in the first episode. The only other thing that it might be is we see Talos using another voice. He doesn't switch the body, but he uses the guy's voice to stop the nuclear warhead. That it could be someone imitating Rhodie, and Rhodie's still himself, but there's someone else going around as Rhodie. Because I've also seen this is not my theory, so I'm not saying that I believe it, but it's interesting to think about how there's scenes where Sam Jackson is wearing glasses and scenes where Sam Jackson isn't wearing glasses. And he wasn't wearing glasses when he's talking to Talos in this episode. And Talos is like, you're just going to act like our conversation didn't happen, kind of thing. And I was like, I'm wondering if there's two Sam Jacksons running around, one as a Skrull, one as actual Sam Jackson, and that they're giving us the cue by when he wears glasses and when he doesn't wear glasses.
I could definitely see that being a thing. I think that one of the things that definitely lends itself to the theory that like your theory of that being Talos pretending to be Rhodie is there was the whole interaction at the beginning of the episode where Nick is having trouble trusting his wife right now.
Yeah.
And she gets this weird phone call and walks away, and he looks down
For
at her
sure
phone,
looked at that phone.
and
She knows who his wife, who is
yeah,
her husband
but
is.
the camera holds on that phone
Mhm.
for a bit before it cuts away. So I could almost see this being a thing where he's testing his wife.
Yeah.
And saying to Talos, hey, put on this voice and call this number and tell her to meet with you and, set up a fake meeting or whatever so that you can confirm it. It'll be interesting. And it's got me really curious for next week, which, by the way, I won't be here for the review next week because I'll be unfortunately traveling for work. But it's got me really curious for how next week's episode is going to play out, because the setup that this episode leaves off on could have a lot of implications for where we're going next, because now we're halfway through the season. We got 3 episodes left, and we know that this is going to lead into the Armor Wars, which is going to be Rhodie's show.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious. Now we're kind of in act 2 of this season. So this is where like stuff's got to start setting up to be paid off.
And I want to get into, again, great acting. The person that plays Fury's wife. She is.
I have it here somewhere.
She did a phenomenal job.
Charlene Woodard.
Yeah. The conversations about, I know who you were. Kind of like, I knew who you were when I married you. You leaving for work is not a big deal for me. You choosing to stay away, that's a big deal for me. And talking about how she was a widow and that she wept every day. And then she foolishly thought that when he came back, they were going to work it out together, but then he left. And so she had to go back to being the person she was before they got married. And that was such a good, juicy scene that was broken by that phone call. And then the don't not answer on my cord. Yeah. And one thing is, she knows who she married. She knows who her husband is. She left her phone there on purpose. Because she could have picked her phone up and walked her phone. Because now in this day and age, yes, they're a little bit older, but in this day and age, when you have a phone, you grab that phone and you take it with you everywhere. The fact that she left her phone there, I don't believe it was charging. So it's not like you're charging your phone. She left it there for Rhodie, not for Rhodie, for Nick to see. Fury, like, here's my phone. You can go through it because I know you're going to go through it.
Yep. It's really got me. That's kind of the both the beauty and the curse of dealing with a concept like the Skrulls. And it's espionage and spy thrillers. It's like, who do you trust? Who's got what motivation? I mean, it's hard to tell right now.
Yeah.
So again, like we said, he was straight up dead. He was blipped for 5 years.
Yeah.
Came back and then disappeared for God knows how long. At the end of the day, she is a Skrull. She loves him and is married to him. He made a promise though. And the Skrulls are still her people.
Yeah.
So as much as she's got this life with Fury that she's built and I'm assuming would want to continue on with, she still wants to see her people find a home. And so with her husband being dead for 5 years, and we're not even taking into account in the time that he faked his death after Winter Soldier either.
Right.
Winter Soldier, whatever movie it was. And then the blip, and then comes back, and then pieces out for however long he was gone on Saber.
My wife kicked me out.
Yeah. Just who knows what that would do to someone's motivations. And and their trust. She's got every reason to not trust him right now because, as everyone has been fond of saying for 3 episodes, he's not the same person that he was before
Yeah.
the blood.
Not the same person that he was, and what pretty much all the scrolls are telling us, even Talos, who is 100% on Nick's side, even said, "The reason why I didn't go with Gravik is because I was with you." Like, and hearing that, and you're like, "Oh, their friendship is so beautiful."
These
Like,
guys have been friends and confidants for
yeah.
30 years.
But even Talos is saying, "You made a promise to us and you didn't keep it." So every single scroll, whether they're good or bad or somewhere in between, has told him, "You made promises and you didn't keep it."
Yeah. They've been doing his dirty work all this time. They've been working for him, he makes a very good point of like, every time you got promoted, it's because of the work we did. Like,
Right?
did you have your own hand in it? Sure. But ultimately, we're the ones who did everything, fed you information, carried out your objectives, and then you got promoted while we had to live in secrecy.
Right?
So you're welcome.
But then at the same, you have the, "Do me a favor, Fury, don't ever change."
Yeah, loved the meeting at the museum between Talos and Gravik.
Yes.
Loved that scene. Loved getting to see that intensity come out of Ben Mendelsohn. But
Statesman
also,
versus soldier.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly. I almost wish that scene wasn't spoiled in the trailers.
Mm.
Like when everyone stands up and turns into Gravik, suddenly it's like, oh, I wish this was. I knew this was coming the minute they sat down. It's
Yeah.
still cool though.
Yeah,
But
it was very cool.
we also see that Gravik has already infused himself with the Extremis
Yeah.
stuff from which is coming back from Iron Man 3 and Agents of Shield. We haven't seen that in a long time.
And I've noticed this too with Gravik, is he has this calmness about him when he's talking to the Scroll Council, except for when he went, "War!" Like,
Yeah.
except for that emphasis on that word, he's been very calmly menacing with the council, with the Skrull Rebellion, even with Nick Fury. Like, he's just, but for whatever reason with Talos, you notice how he was not calm at all throughout that
No.
entire meeting. And I'm wondering if we'll get a flashback to like him and Talos, or something happen where he can keep his cool with everyone else, but he cannot keep his cool with Talos.
I have a feeling we're going to, because we've seen something the last couple episodes already. The first one was like the year that the Skrulls came to Earth. Then this one was a couple years after that. So I'll be really curious to see if we're going to continue to get more and more of this backstory. Because you're right, I noticed that too. Was the whole time Gravik was at the museum with Talos, he was loud and jovial at times, almost like it's like he knew he was screwing with Gravik,
Foaming at the
with Talos.
mouth.
Yeah, it's like he's like, I'm in control. This I don't take this seriously. You've got nothing. I'm not here to work. I'm here to I'm a cat playing with a mouse at this point.
Mm.
Because he knew at that point that Talos didn't know he had Extremis in him, and he was already, his plan is well underway. Because yeah, as soon as he's in the car or back at the compound, yeah, he is quiet, he is intense, and he is solely focused on the mission at hand. How much do we think he planted that information with Gaia?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I think that is all
Let
too
me
obvious.
clearly give you the time and the place where
Yeah.
this is happening.
And it because one of two things is going to happen. Either he's going to be right and he's identified the mole and eliminated that problem, or B, he's wrong and they do the thing they're trying to do anyway, which is start World
Yep,
War III. So either way, he
exactly.
wins.
It's
Either
a
way, he
win-win
wins.
situation for him, and the and you know that he already is just like, "Yeah, she's a mole. I'm gonna double check by doing this, because I don't, because he's very smart.
Mhm.
He's smart enough to know that, yeah, she's lying to me, she's not, but he's smart enough to be like, "Let me not off her, let me not do something until I know for sure," kind
Mhm.
of thing. where even to saying you should be grateful I haven't sent you your daughter in a body bag. And the fact too, in that conversation, you get the humans are at their most formidable when they are threatened by a common foe. And so it's going to be very interesting when if the humans find out, when they find out, what they're going to do to fight off the Skrulls.
Yeah, and next, like I said, we're past the halfway point in the show now. So next week is where I'm, based on how next week's episode ends, is going to determine how I feel about everything. Because as we know, these shows aren't known for their good story pacing, especially at the halfway mark. Now, with this season, these episodes have been 45 minutes to almost an hour long, and they're getting quite a bit accomplished in that time as far as like good character moments go. But we're halfway through now. Let's set up what the story is going to be like. Okay, cool. What's the plan? Like what are we trying to accomplish here?
Which we got a little bit in that conversation too, where Talos goes, I'm going to tell everyone about you guys. And now that she's probably dead. Yeah. His daughter's dead, or either his daughter's dead or he will think that his daughter's dead, because for sure Gravik is going to go about it. Like, so he'll have no one at that moment that is a Skrull that he cares about. And then there he'll be like, fuck everyone. My wife's dead. My daughter's now dead. Everyone's gonna know about you bitches.
We still don't know how his wife died. All he said was, ask the people you work for how she died.
Yeah.
We don't. So I'm really curious if we're going to find out how she died, what it was, like what part in that, because I can't believe that she was a part of a graphics organization if Gaia didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And that he didn't know Gaia was working for so it'll be, I'm curious if we're going to get the reveal of what happened to Talos's wife, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head right now.
Soren, I believe.
Maybe. Sounds about right, but a lot of these Skrull names, you just say sounds and I'll believe you.
Let's go to the very end, though. His wife, do you feel like she was being followed? Because I felt like she was being followed.
I don't know about followed. I think she thought she was being followed, but I don't think she actually was. I think it's a setup. I think she's being set up, but I don't know about being followed. I don't know. It's hard, but again, it's Skrulls. How the hell? Yeah. It's hard to say, but I think I definitely felt her paranoia, but I think ultimately she was being set up more than followed. I think that, but the Rhodie thing is just, it's hard. There's a lot of evidence pointing to Rhodie being a Skrull.
Yeah. And do you feel that she is on Gravik's side, or is she only there for survival because Nick wasn't around?
I think it's more the survival thing. I think she got put in a position where plus she's Nick Fury's wife. She's got a backup plan of her own. She's got her own contingencies. There's no way she doesn't.
Right.
So, you don't get to be Nick Fury's wife for that long and not have your own contingency plans.
The blood on the note that she gave him in '98 for Dreykov.
I loved that. So it's hard to say because it really could be anything is on the table with this show. So I think it's more likely that she was put in a position of survival. It's less outright betrayal and more of just like, you were gone and I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And then you came back and I couldn't just walk away. So
we had to try a little tenderness.
Shrek has ruined that song for me forever. got to try a little tenderness. The chicks love that romantic crap. Yeah, I'm beyond ready for next week's episode. I need it now because they have set up such a great mystery with the way this episode left off that I'm like, I need to know now. I need to know right now.
Any big theories before we wrap this up? Because I know I think it could be a possibility, but I'm not claiming it as my own theory because I saw someone else have it of the two Nick Furies. But any theories that you have going on now that we are pretty much at the halfway point of the show?
I think Rhodie is a Skrull. I think Rhodie is definitely a Skrull. And I think that because remember in episode 1, there was a figure we didn't see clearly watching as Gravik was having that guy take over that person's mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was Rhodie. Or Rhodie. Because Gravik's not the person in charge. He's answering to someone.
I don't know. I feel like Gravik is the person in charge. And that if Rhodie is a Skrull, it's just another one of Gravik's men. I don't think the Rhodie Skrull is one step above Gravik or anything like that. I think Gravik is the top dog right now in the Skrull world.
I don't think Gravik would let one of his underlings get into a position that high up. I think if anyone was going to be that high up in the U.S. government, he'd want to do it himself.
I mean, I think so because you have, first off, already you have the UK Prime Minister, you got the head of NATO, you got the pretty much people that are already high up in different positions around the world. So I can see it being, or it could too be a Skrull that infiltrated before Gravik became top dog, but now everyone listens to Gravik because Gravik is now currently top dog.
Either way, I don't trust Rhodie right now. Just especially going back and rewatching last week's episode with the idea of him being a Skrull. Yeah, that conversation. It's not that it lessens the conversation, but it hits a little bit different.
It lessens it a little bit for me.
Yeah,
and I think it's because they're speaking to each other, black man to black man, about a shared ancestry.
Sure.
And we all know what that means.
Yeah.
There's no shared ancestry if he's a Skrull.
I think if anything, it creates a double metaphor because of what the Skrulls themselves have had to live through.
Yeah, but the Skrulls haven't been slaves on Earth.
On Earth, no. But
we don't know about the past of Skrullos, but we can assume with that one person on the council that said, I will not submit.
Yeah.
That they themselves were too willing to fight a war against the Kree that they lost their life. Now, did the Kree make them slaves? We don't know that, but I assumed that it was a war between the two, and then they had to flee. So it's a different kind of, yes, both groups are persecuted in different ways, but I don't know, it just doesn't equate at the same level for me, and so it kind of lessens it a little bit for me.
Well, we know that there was some kind of genocide. There's only 1 million Skrulls left, so not including the emperor or whatever that Talos mentioned in episode 2. But we know that there's only 1 million of them left, and they're all on
But
Earth.
I think it's from fighting. I don't think it's from. I think it's from fighting, and then the Kree retaliating, or the Kree starting it, and then them fighting back, and then the Kree just fucking mollywhopping, carpet bombing their ass.
I'm hoping we find out. I'm hoping we find out a lot more of that this season because it seems like we're going to, because there's still things about it that Fury doesn't even know.
Yeah.
So as he knows, we'll know. So I'll be interested to see what else comes up. Like I said, I'm super excited for next week because we've set up a a nice big mystery that I would like solved sooner rather than later, especially with there only being 3 episodes left. I'm starting to get nervous. As usual, it's just come on, guys, just give me one. I just need one of these shows to stick the landing. You've gotten close so many times.
The closest I think is like Miss Marvel, and then even then,
Miss Marvel and Moon Knight were the closest, but they still weren't 100% where they needed to be. So
I wouldn't even say Moon Knight was the closest. They just had a really awesome 5th episode.
Just really well. Just the finale was just too short. So we'll see. We'll see. We got 3 episodes. We've only got 3 episodes. So let us know what you guys think is going on with everything with Rhodie and Priscilla. Are we going to see more of Emilia Clarke in this season? What do you think our big, I hate to use the term end game, but what's the big end game we're setting up for with this season? And let us know what you guys think down below in the comments. Make sure you guys subscribe and ring the bell and all that good important stuff. And we'll see you again. Soul will see you next week for another episode here on Off the Wall. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye. Should have had the button pulled up ready to press before we went.